Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gerardo Poli.
And this, sorry. Okay.
One of the best bits of advice I've ever received was to find good mentors and to learn from them. Trusted people who have already done what you're trying to do now. I've been fortunate throughout my career to have some fantastic mentors to help guide me, but I realized that they'd be hard to find and also hard to commit the time to one. This is why we've gathered some of the best minds from the veterinary world and squeezed them for their wisdom so that you don't have to learn the hard way.
With the help of our guests, we flip the veterinary profession on its back and explore its soft underbelly to find the tips, tools, and inspiration that you'll need to build the career that you've always wanted.
I'm Gerardo Poli.
I'm Hubert Hemstra, and this is the Vet Vault. Hello, Vet Vaulters, and thank you for joining us again. We trust that you're still getting as much out of listening to the podcast as we do from talking to our amazing guests. Gerardo, welcome home. You've been globetrotting.
Oh, yeah. I was approached by the Ross University students and went and did a talk there on emergency topics, but also trained 22 of them in to be Recover certified CPR rescuers, and then also talked about leadership and business as well. So was able to tack on a performance conference by Brendan Burchard, which was incredible. That was at San Diego.
Was it good? Are those? I've always wondered about those sort of conferences. I'm actually, funny enough, currently reading his book. Told me. So how much more value is there from the conference than the information that you get in a book like that?
No, it was incredible. The conference was incredible. He focused on a triangle of achievement, or at least performance, let's say. First is mind and body activation, really kind of getting your mind and body in shape. And then the other aspect of the triangle was achievement strategies, talked about systems, what systems are used to achieve and to be productive. And then thirdly, he talks about people. And because obviously we're a social society, everything we do generally involves other people. If we can connect and communicate and influence and persuade much better, then we're able to achieve the things we want to achieve in a more engaging and collaborative manner. So totally 100% HPX Live was probably the best conference I've been to for a while on performance and productivity and personal achievement.
So what's going to change? What am
I going to change?
What are you going to do differently after the conference as opposed to before?
Yeah, well, so I do a lot of stuff already in terms of resetting and keeping my mind and body active. I have morning rituals. I have things which keep me energized during the day. In terms of mind and body activation, hourly reset rituals is actually what I'm going to start doing now, but more, how would you say, in a more structured manner. So, and then also in terms of achievement strategies, a lot of planning, actually, a lot more planning than I normally do around planning the day and making sure that I focus primarily on what is the key productive outputs that I need to do and make sure I get those sorted first before I figure anything else out and don't get sidetracked. And then with regards to people, actually really focusing on collaborative works and ways to bring people along for the ride and develop career pathways, which is kind of what I'm doing at AES. So, yeah, I took away quite a lot, and I've got several things that I'm going to tackle for myself. So
awesome! I'm excited to see what effects all of this is going to have on the podcast.
It will be enabling you, Hubert, to be the best and most awesome version of you. Because you're the brains behind this, bro.
All right, Ash, let's get back to our guest. So the first time that you meet Dr. Charles El-Hage, you'll probably think to yourself, who the heck was that guy? And without knowing why, you'll probably find yourself thinking that there's something about him that makes you want to speak to him a little bit more and find out more about him. And then you'll ask somebody about him, and when you ask them if they know him, you'll see their face just light up in a huge smile, and they'll say, "Oh, that's Charlie. He's awesome. Let me go introduce you." So let's introduce you.
So when he's been Dr. Charles El-Hage, He is a lecturer in veterinary clinical medicine and surgery at the University of Melbourne in Australia. After decades of large animal practice, he returned to the Equine Centre, where he worked as a clinician for 3 years, and then later he stepped up into a lecturing role while completing his PhD. He has a range of equine interests, including all the ologies: virology, immunology, toxicology, endocrinology, parasitology, and theriogenologies, all the ologies, more ologies than I can think of. And he's currently researching infectious conditions of horses and the immunological responses to those infectious conditions. So he's got a lot on his plate. He completed his PhD in 2016 and has published many original research and reviews on numerous equine diseases. So when he's been Charlie, he's an inspiration to scores of students, a frontline charity worker, and a champion for animals in developing countries around the world, and most recently in Indonesia. He's a traveler, adventurer, father, competitive long-distance runner, and a great friend to many.
So in this episode, travel with us through Charlie's career as we talk about bad bosses, great clients, creating connections with people, his charity works, his thoughts on finding the best place to give your gifts to the world, mindset, and much, much more. Now, we did have a little bit of technical problems with this recording and with the internet, so Charlie's sound is not the best. I do apologize, but I do urge you, have a listen. Charlie has a lot of value to add, so stick with it. It will be well worth it. And if you're interested in getting involved in the work in Indonesia, send us an email at vetveldpodcast@gmail.com. We're working on some future trips there, including some student spay trips. So if you want to go practice your surgery in paradise while contributing to the welfare of the dogs there, hit us up. Please enjoy Dr. Charles El-Hage. Welcome back to the Vetveld Podcast, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the last episode, and I am personally very excited about today's guest. Dr. Charles El-Hage is a friend of mine. I've gone on a spay trip to Indonesia with him, and we've been working together on a couple of projects, but I'm very chuffed to get him on the podcast because there's some questions that you just can't ask a friend casually. It's just not appropriate to probe too deeply in just an acquaintance or a friend of yours. So today all the questions I've always wanted to ask, we get right there and ask. Welcome to the podcast, Charlie.
Thanks very much, dude.
Charlie, from what I understand, you're a lecturer down at Melbourne Uni in Australia, is that right?
That's correct, yeah, I'm a lecturer. But I guess a lecturer is just one facet of what I do. I was a clinician for a long time, and I'd like to think I'm a clinical lecturer. How's that? Clinical lecturer and a bit of a community vet as well.
So clinical lecturer, like meaning that you practice as well as lecturer or?
Yeah, I did practice when I first came to the university. We had an ambulatory clinic at Melbourne, but we then became a specialist referral clinic. So I withdrew and stopped being a clinician, actively being a clinician, and did mainly. And now I just mainly do lectures about infectious diseases, anatomy, and a bit of clinical. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. It sounds like I'm evading that question, but I'm not one of the active clinicians. They give all the clinical stuff. Now I've just withdrawn and probably more theoretical, but I still see myself as a clinician.
So when you say ambulatory, obviously you're talking about horses. So did you start your veterinary career in horses, with horses?
I started as a dairy, or worked in a dairy practice in southwest Victoria, and it was one of those practices where the guys, the partners, like to do all the cows, and they don't want to do any dogs, and they don't want to do any horses, any cats. So I became very good at dog and cat surgery, and then there were a few horse trainers around, and they were met with derision usually by the partners. The fact they were actively repulsed, which is a bit of a shame because there were no close horse vets, and they used to get these vets from about 150 kilometres away, which is nothing for you guys, but it's 5 towns away for us. And eventually, one of the vets they were consulting in a case to mention something about the horse and mentioned that I was a practitioner in the nearby practice, and that vet said, "Well, you're silly not to get Charlie." So, although that's not me saying, that's what he said, and that pretty much snowballed. And I then started getting a hold of the horse cases and decided I didn't really like getting covered in cow shit all day. Maybe I'll find this horse paper. And so I started doing a lot more horses, and then I thought, well, I thought I'd go overseas, and I worked in a horse and cow practice in the south of England, and blah, blah, blah. I became much more horse oriented then. I left Victoria. I left only after working in that that dairy practice, and I left. The boss was an old guy, and nothing wrong with that, but he was a tough man to work for, and he was pretty. I don't know. At some stage, I was going to talk about elderly male vets, but he wasn't. Well, he didn't give me rectal gloves for starters. And I'll probably leave it at that. And so I guess I left seeking rectal gloves. I just wanted a boss that would give me rectal gloves.
No rectal gloves.
And I would do, some days, I would do 200 cow practice, a couple of rotten calvings, and I'd get into bed. And I'd just sort of curl up and I'd sniff. And I thought, holy smoke, I am never ever going to find a partner while I go to bed smelling like this. That's a swim and 4 showers later, and I still stank.
Oh, that's a really...
So, okay, did he have rectal gloves
No,
and you didn't?
No, he reckoned that he was tough. He was a real man.
So do you know what the theory was here? Was it a prove that you're a man, or was it a financial consideration?
I think a bit of both. A bit of both. He said, it takes away from your feeling, you know. I said, I think I'm pretty good feeling with gloves or without gloves. I can get it.
Maybe he's lost sensation in his fingers
that's
from just the calluses that he's developed from.
Possibly, yeah. So some of my friends, that was before Facebook and that. Some of my friends, they bring up, "How's your day, Charlie?" "Oh, not too bad, but I absolutely stink." So one friend of mine, he remains a friend for life, sent me a box of rectal gloves.
Oh, wow.
That was Christmas.
I can't even imagine, to be honest, literally how like a rotten carving as well.
Yeah.
Hands in that.
Yeah. I think
that's super tough. No way.
I think it was I think that's the way those guys used to roll, those older guys. Yeah. But the only thing that kept me in that practice, to be honest, was the clients were rock solid dairy clients, and a few of those horse guys, they used to keep me going. So from pretty early age, I learned to rely on the client, not my boss, for support and
gloves.
And gloves.
So how long did you stick it out?
About 18 months. I thought about 18 months, and probably after the first 2 weeks, I started telling my friends, I think I'd like to leave this practice, but I can't really leave after 2 weeks. And this guy, I kind of got along okay with him in the end. I didn't get along with him, but I tolerated him. I didn't used to have shouting matches after a while, and he employed me as a new graduate because somebody else had just left the practice. About 4 people had left the practice. He employed me, and he employed another fellow called Charles. So there was two. So there was me, and I started before the other Charles, and he would go and tell clients in front of me. They'd say, "How's work going?" And he'd say, "Oh, I've been pretty busy. I've only got one help, ma'am. This one. I've only got him helping me, but we're getting another vet coming soon, and he's going to be a whole lot better." So yeah. So anyway, I think he thought it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. I knew he was serious.
Oh,
Oh wow!
jeez.
Oh,
Anyway,
I
so
was,
yeah,
I was going to ask you, how do you put up with that? Have you got any advice to put up with that sort of situation? But I want to say the only advice there should be to just run.
yeah. Well, my advice to new graduates is when they're looking at jobs is I say make sure you think the boss will support you and look after you. And I don't say make sure they give you rectal gloves, but make sure they make sure that you think that they'll be support you and look after you, and they're not more worried about. They're not focused on themselves. That they'll look after you. And I think you can get that fairly quickly. Usually, I recommend people be with an employer for not just for half an hour, but for a day or two, and assess that. I think the only way I survived that, it's pretty tough as a young vet, is I guess you've got to be your own judge, or you be your own judge. Don't rely on others, even though it can hurt you. And also, I think you've got to make sure that you have a lot of other people around you. And in those days, it was only the telephone, but I knew that all those clients that I would go out to, that they appreciated what I did, and I got a lot of support. If I had a hard time from a few clients and I came back to that, it would have probably been a lot more challenging to tolerate. Yeah.
wow! That's incredible. It's, to be honest, we hear stories, Hubert and I, about um, vets going out and having struggles with clients as well. But the fact that what was the thing that enabled you to continue being a vet in that environment, right? It wasn't supportive at all. If anything, it was not, well, I didn't want to say derogatory, but
It was destructive almost. It was, yeah.
yeah. The only thing that kept you there was, not the only thing, but like what you just said, was the fact that your clients kept you there, which is,
That's exactly right. And as you say, I haven't really thought about it that way, Gerardo, but that's very true. I guess I learned from an early age that to respect and I guess give clients their due. I do not denigrate clients. I don't joke about them and talk about them. Obviously, there are some good ones and bad ones too, but I found they were my rocks of support in that practice. Yeah.
wow. Well, Human and I have this common thing that comes back where we talk about how we've gone through our careers, and the early stages were challenging and exciting because of the fact we had to learn things and level up, and then we got through like the challenge left, and then you sort of lose a bit of direction in the middle of it, and then later on you come back, and one of the things that actually you come back for is the people you work with and the clients and and the interactions you have and the wins you have together, and that kind of connection that develops over time. And it sounds like as if that was like you at the start, as opposed to sort of what we realized a bit later on in the time frame. What do you think, Hubert?
Well, it's a question. I want to ask a question about that. Was that because you clearly had an ability right at the start of your career to make that connection with clients? Were they unique clients, or was that a unique Charlie trait? Like, did you, in subsequent jobs after that, did you ever find yourself having difficulties with clients where they became the problem versus the joy in the job? Or have you always had that innate ability to just connect with people?
I would. I think that I have always enjoyed interacting with clients. I don't know that I've got anything special with it, but I think that, for example, my first job, they're those dairy farmers in southwest Victoria. They do it tough. They work hard. I don't think they're super demanding. Maybe if I was off in a tough equine stud environment, that would be a different kettle of fish first up. So, yeah, I think it's probably a bit of both. I certainly enjoy relating to clients, and yeah, I think as Gerardo was saying, I think we go through certain stages, and I was still trying to really working on getting my carvings down pat and my technical skills down pat. And I was just lucky I had supportive clients, and as I've got more, I guess I'm not going to say technologically refined, but as I've got a little bit more comfortable with my work, I certainly do focus on relating to the clients, addressing their needs. I certainly do enjoy that aspect.
Maybe what I might just thought then is your perspective from the start was that, clients love clients and, together work together and, they were a support, right? So inherently you maybe came from the perspective or the filter you had when you had a client come through was, hey, this is an awesome time to create an opportunity and work together and collaborate, where potentially because one thing I get concerned about is on social media, there's heaps of things on social media about, clients said it only happened yesterday, but clearly it's been there for 3 weeks and things There's a lot of smack talk around clients, and I don't believe it actually helps us in any way, because we inherently then start taking on this filter, which is clients.
Well, it's us against them versus, hey, we actually trying to achieve the same goals.
Absolutely couldn't agree more. In fact, I see those comments too. At the time, there was no social media, but I see those comments too, and I can understand what people are saying. Yes, it's clear that the wound is a lot older. The corneal ulcer is a lot older. You can see, we can see the blood vessels growing in. It didn't happen yesterday. Is there anything to be gained by that? I mean, we all know that. I think celebrating that or making a point of that is quite destructive. It's not helpful at all. And just to go on about the clients, I would be talking to my boss in that practice, and a client would come in. I'd dive into the consult room with the biggest smile, and because I was getting away from him.
Wow.
Yeah, I that's one of my it's one of my big bugbears these days. I feel there's a lack of empathy towards the clients, where vets, yes, that thing might have been there for longer than the client says, but it might be that they really don't notice it. They don't know what you know. They don't have your experience or your knowledge. So, and B, they have probably been scared of coming in to see you because they're worried about what it is. There's a lot of factors there. So when they say that, it's not because they're trying to be an asshole. It's probably good reason behind it. So no, and as you say, in the end, you're actually only harming yourself by. Anyways,
I'll just say one thing there, Hubert. The thing is, you are only harming yourself, and you're harming your ability to then address the patient's issue. If you can't connect because you've got this filter which stops you from connecting with the client because you don't respect them, how then are you going to talk in a way, communicate in a way where you then gain the client's trust? And also, it drains you. The more you judge, the more you walk out the back and go, oh my God, did I imagine this? Like, that's all energy that's just wasting away that you could be giving away towards treating the pet and building connections.
Couldn't agree more. You're turning something, you're getting knotted up, your stomach's in a knot, and you walk out the back and you're tense. Whereas had you just let it roll and just started talking and letting things flow, you walk out the back with a smile on your face. I mean, who are you harming there? They've also got their family around. Maybe they were supposed to be looking after the animal, and they're in trouble. So they're not gonna throw themselves under the bus. So one late night consultation I had was somebody brought in a rabbit with his wife and his 3 children, and they said the rabbit hasn't been that well lately. And I said, let me have a look at him. So I got him out, and he was stiff as a board. And I thought, what am I going to say? He's like Monty Python. And I said, how long has he been like this for? And he said, oh, for a little while. I said, he's not too well. You do realise that possibly he seems like he might have already passed away. Has he? I said, yes, I think he has. Anyway, that was a tough one, but anyway, we got there.
Well, you could have tried treating him, Charlie. I want to take a slight left turn here. I told you earlier today, I've been stalking you. I've been Google stalking you and finding some interesting things. Well, I'll start with when I chatted to you last week. You sent me a photo of your family in Beirut.
Yes.
So you've just been in Beirut.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if you've got that in Perth, but they're talking about now go and take an empty esky and go and visit the bushfire affected areas that normally got lots of tourists. Take an empty esky and fill your esky and support that. I felt like people should support Lebanon, but it's probably a little bit more dangerous than the bushfire zone. I have family there, and I went a few years ago with my two eldest children. And at the time, I had my youngest daughter was about 12 or 13. We met a lot of family at that first visit, and I felt like I owed it to my youngest daughter to return there and let her meet them all, because the other two came back and said, it's a lovely place, a little bit crazy. So I went back this time, and interestingly enough, it seems like the warring factions have pretty much, things have settled down there, and the country was heading on the up. Employment was okay, some tourists were coming back. But in the last 6 months, you may have read about all these protests in Beirut. So what's happened is there's been terrible economic downturn, and I think a lot of I'm not sure how helpful this is, but I think a lot of the people blame corrupt politicians, and so there's a lot of anger directed at politicians, and so there's some pretty serious protests. They burn tyres, they throw rocks, and my relatives, 3 of them had full employment. The ones with full employment have all lost their employment. They go to the bank and try and get money that's in their account, and there's been a rush on the bank. There's no money. There's $200 a month American available for each person, and I have to wait 4 hours. So it was really good to meet my family, good to go to some certain areas, but I felt like I was almost invading people that were really doing it tough. I didn't really feel all that comfortable, I suppose. Empathically, I felt, who are we? We're going to come, we're going to see all these people's troubles, and then we just go back to Australia. Hard to enjoy it, but certainly it was valuable. And certainly I took my youngest daughter and my older daughter, and they certainly found it a very valuable and heartwarming experience. And I guess I was troubled by it. I felt.
Yeah, it's especially it's a question. Again, coming from a less stable country than where we currently live, is there value in exposing your kids?
Yeah.
Because it's good to know that the whole world isn't just rain.
Yeah.
There is actually a rest of the world out there where things are a bit more complicated at times. Yeah. I want to ask you about your family, if you don't mind. Again, this is Google, so this might be a pointless question. What was your dad's name?
D-E-E-B.
Yes, that's what I was hoping you'd say. I found a little story, and this is not really vet related, but I just think it's an incredible story. I found a story about him when he was a 7-year-old, and a story involving a donkey. Does that ring a bell?
I love the story of the donkey. So that's why we went here. I wanted to show my daughter my dad's house, because underneath the house there's a little door where the donkey used to live. So we took a photo. I'll actually send you the photo, Hubert. The little door, the donkey door, I call it. And that was, so he couldn't walk. And so he rode on the donkey, and he went to this monastery in this valley. Beautiful. So Lebanon is quite beautiful. Where we were, there's a beach you can swim in, and you can see snow-covered mountains in the one. Like it's a phenomenal tourist destination. So there's this beautiful, spectacular valley called the Kadisha Valley, and he went on his donkey with his parents to this monastery because he couldn't walk properly, and he supposedly was cured. So I said to my girls, let's go and spend a couple of days in the valley, and we'll just see if we can get a bit of help from this monastery as well. And anyway, my cousin who picks us up at the airport and drives us around said, no, you're not going there. It's too dangerous. Having said that, I had another friend. He's just an Aussie mate, an Aussie vet, equine veterinary nutritionist, and he said, I had a great time in in Beirut, Charlie, you want to go to this Kadisha Valley? It's really cool. So he went, no problem, but I wasn't allowed to go. So shame. But we did get the donkey door. We did get a good photo of the donkey door.
So there's a very long and historic link to you and your family and equines.
That's it. Equids. Yeah.
I'm going to keep digging, Charlie. I asked people who know you what I should chat to Charlie about, and somebody said ask him about his childhood.
Yeah, that's a good question. Do they know about my childhood?
I don't know. They must know something. I know nothing, so I've got no idea why they said that. But they said ask him to tell us about his childhood, and I suppose we should bring it back to veterinary science. How your childhood journeyed onto getting you into being interested in being a vet.
Yeah. So I had a bit of a different upbringing, and maybe that relates to you're talking about my connection with clients and people. I'm not sure how deep to go in it, but I'll say this: I didn't have a typical childhood. Unfortunately, my mother passed away when I was fairly young, and so and my dad wasn't able to support me. So I had two siblings at the time, and we were like in a home for a little while, and then my dad remarried and came back home. I guess thinking about my childhood in terms of what role animals played, I guess I felt like I wasn't all that extroverted. I took a lot of comfort in the company of animals. And you think, well, I lived in the city on a block in a normal block. It was a little bit larger than normal, and I used to have a little goat that I loved. I used to have a turtle, the poor thing that I tied a string to its shell so I couldn't get away. And I used to go fishing a lot. So I sought solace in animals from an early age, but I never ever thought of being a vet. In fact, if I mentioned it to my father's Lebanese, obviously, and all of his family, and they thought I was a pretty bright student. And what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I don't know, maybe an architect. I'm not sure. They said, why don't you be a doctor? And I said, no, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm really comfortable with people suffering. And they said, well, you've got all these animals. Have you ever thought about being a vet? And I said, yeah, I'd like to be a vet. I think I'd like to be a vet, but I haven't really thought about it. And they said, well, when I started getting a little bit serious, I wanted to be an architect up till that would have been a disaster. That would have been an absolute disaster. But I wanted up till middle of, and I think I was a bit shy, and I didn't really like telling people I wanted to get into a course that was very hard to get into because I felt like they might think I was had tickets on myself, and I didn't think I'd get into veterinary science anyway. But I eventually got in, and these same people that used to say, "Did you why don't you be a doctor?" I still got "Why don't you be a doctor?" after I got the vet science and even more so because they said, "You know what the name for a vet in Arabic is? If a doctor," they say, "you're an animal, hakim matri, and if a doctor makes a mistake on a person, they'll say, oh, he must be a hakim matri." So that was about as much a veterinary. I didn't have a lot of inspiration to be a vet. In fact, I had a lot of the inspiration, that desperation not to be a vet.
Yeah. So it was almost a derogatory term for a bad doctor.
It is a hakim matri. Yeah. So they laugh. They say, he's going to be a vet. They would laugh. People would laugh. But if I still sit around with a few of my dad's friends and say, I haven't for a long time, but I would sit around and say, hakim matri, they would laugh.
Wow.
A lot of things I've done in life have been driven from myself, from within, not from around me.
When I went through high school, I didn't do very well at high school, and I didn't get good enough grades actually to get anywhere near into vet, and then proceeded 3 years of trying to get in, and I got in eventually. And actually, my own family was actually quite surprised I got in. And my older brother, who now says that he's very proud of me, but back then he was like, that it's pretty hard to get in, and there's a lot of continuing professional development, and you're sure you want to try to get there, and what
are you trying to say, bro?
Actively, I was like, I think I'm pretty okay with that. I just started to second guess my decision, And then I think in the end, they just viewed me as the person I was when I was in high school, which was, didn't apply myself and rode my bicycle around a lot and was quite fit back then and so forth. And they tried to apply that vision of who I was to me being a vet and getting in. They actively thought that I wouldn't make it.
It's interesting, isn't it? And there's nothing wrong. I guess you can't blame them for that, can you? Because that's what they saw. They don't know what's going on inside you, but that's what they saw.
Yeah.
Mine was more like Charlie. I did well at school. I was quite an academic, and when I said sort of towards late high school, I'm thinking of being vet. I had quite a lot of, especially parents of friends, going, "Why do you want to waste your talent on vet? Why don't you do a proper job?" It's interesting how other people's, just a little comment like that can change your perceptions, and I do sometimes wonder if that actually tainted my own perception of my job, even as a veterinarian, going, well, is there really any value in what I'm doing? Because you'd remember this friend's mom saying, why don't you become a real doctor?
Yeah.
Little comments like that. I think that actually bugged me for a while.
Yeah,
to get to it. Yeah, it's because it sticks with you to go, well, is what I'm doing really valuable? It took me a long time to find proper value in it again.
So what one comment was to me is I'd be sitting around my dad's lounge room, and some of his older friends would be there and say, "So, why you want to be a vet? You could be something really valuable to your community and be a doctor. You could really help your community." And that hurt me. It bit me. But I thought, well, I'm just going to be a really good vet and be valuable to my community as a vet.
So, Charlie, this is fascinating. So you obviously didn't have an easy start. Like, you certainly didn't have the silver spoon. And yet, when you meet Charlie, and anybody who knows you just talks about how positive and energetic and just with a real lust for life you seem to have, where does that come from? How from a fairly tough background, was there something that triggered that, or why? How do you do it?
Yeah. I have to say, I haven't spoken about my mother who's passed away, but I saw a recent photo of her. So in the late 50s, there were 4 women grouped together for a photo, and I have never seen this photo before. And this woman with black hair and a big smile was sitting on the ground, and she had both of her arms out, and all the others were standing up. One was kneeling down, the others were standing up, and she had her arms out and a big smile. And I think a bit of it is genetic, Hubert. A bit of it is genetic, and I think a lot of it is genetic, because I'm not sure why. I certainly enjoy getting the best out of myself. Maybe it's a bit of a competitive thing. I want to get the best out of myself. I want to get the best out of life, and I want to get the best out of the person that I'm interacting with. I live in a small town, and I go past a lot of people I know, and it's all hello. Some people say I could be the mayor. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Charlie. And so I like to get a smile from a stranger. I like to get smiles from friends. I get a bit disappointed if I don't, but I say, don't beat yourself up just because that person wants to walk straight past you, Charlie. I think I like to get the best out of myself and out of others.
Especially if you're enthusiastic and love what you do, that passion and that energy then imparts on the people you teach. Yeah, totally. I could see, Charlie, the impact you could have, and such a positive impact.
Well, and that's exactly right. So I think that pretty much everything in life is interesting and it's valuable if you can. It's up to you. My goal is to make it enjoyable, liven it up, and there's a couple of subjects that I give where people have said that, Charlie. I really appreciate you livening this up.
Actually, really quite interested to know how, Charlie, you got into the charity work at in Indonesia.
So I think I could start by how I met Hubert, how I made a connection with Hubert was I was at an ABA veterinary conference, and some friends of mine who support a lot of my work said you should give a talk about what you do in Indonesia. So I said, and to be honest, my initial reaction was, I don't really like, and this sounds like false modesty. It's not even false modesty. It's just, I don't like making a big deal of it because I do it because I feel I made a mistake once. I said to a colleague, they said, "Oh, have you been in Indonesia, Charlie? Oh, that's really good what you do." And I said, "Well, actually, I don't know that it is." I said, this was unfortunate because I said, "I feel like I've got a gift." I meant to say, I feel like we've got a gift as veterinarians. We have a gift as veterinarians in a modern country that's well resourced. We've got a gift. We've been given this education that pretty much, we were given the education that we didn't have to uh, we didn't have to really do that much. We worked hard, but it wasn't a huge physical challenge to get there. We live in this great country, and we've been given the opportunity to get some tertiary education. Suddenly we're vets, and we're able to do really good things in the community, despite what our parents thought. Really good things in the community. We're able to make a difference. And I initially used to go up to the Northern Territory and work with. Again, I only that I was talked into it by colleagues who I think are much far greater humanitarians than I am. I was talked into going there because I couldn't think of a good reason why not. And same in Gili Islands, I was talked into going there because a good vet in Western Australia, Dr. Kirsten Webber, she invited me several times, and I said no several times, and eventually agreed. And I just found that I was able to share something I had that really was no skin off my nose, but it made a difference to a lot of people. Certainly, it helps the animals, but I feel like, again, we seem to be going back to this theme, and in this case, it's vets. I feel like I am able to give vets who deal in difficult, tough situations a little bit of hope and a bit of support. And on the weekend, I had a long WhatsApp conversation with one of these Indonesian vets in Lombok, looking at a foal with diarrhea and a bloated abdomen. And on the Saturday night, she's WhatsApping me. Now, I've now created this. It's become like a rolling stone. It's gathered a lot of moss, and I've just created this alter ego Charlie, who's a vet in Indonesia, which is so different from my life here. But a lot of what I do here allows other people to also be charitable and get involved. And even the nurses that work in the dental sterile supply, I walk past today, Charlie, when you go to Indonesia, we've got stuff for you. It's become a bit of a touchstone to it. I started off in no way did I think I was some wonderful charity worker. I just bumbled into it, and it's just kept going and going and going. And now I can't go to Indonesia without visiting Bali University and going to a cattle government station and going to Lombok Uni, and I've got to go via Gili Islands. And I just feel like I've got a lot of mates, and I can support a lot of people.
Wow. No, that's awesome.
The long-winded answer, but that's it. Yeah.
I like what you say about that you have this gift that we, as you say, not you.
Yeah, I said that was a mistake.
It is. We do forget as veterinarians what an immense store of knowledge and experience you have compared to pretty much the entire rest of the world, and it's important not to be selfish with it, to say, well, if I can help somebody with it, help somebody. What I do love from my very early dabbling in the same field is once you start in that field and people know that you're involved in it, it's lovely to see how many people want to help. It's just the practicalities of helping in some of these places can be quite hard. So as soon as you open that door, as soon as you just start opening the door a little crack to say, well, there's a way for us to help, I have the know-how, then there's a tide of people behind you who want to flow through that crack and get the work done, which is that's what inspires me to keep working at it, to go, well, if you make a few contacts and you help a few people, then there are a lot of people, and veterinarians specifically. I keep saying one of the things I love most about doing the podcast is just to connect with our profession and just see how much incredible talent and passion there is out there. It's really inspiring to meet everybody.
I have to to say to you, it's a bit confidential, but I'll say it to your listeners, that I almost feel a cringe. I feel like sometimes I'm not able. All of these people want to help. I have a list. I've got a spreadsheet of about 18 vets that want to help, and I feel the only thing stopping them from helping is me. And it's really, as we discussed before, it's not easy working in Indonesia. But my goal is to be able to all get over and do work over there, because I feel like, you know, there's a win-win-win here, that the people volunteering will benefit immensely, the people at the other end will benefit, and their animals will benefit, and I'll benefit because I'll have made a new friend. It's still, yeah, it's challenging for me. Some people say I should get a receptionist or something like that. Not as easy as that, but hopefully, Hugh, you'll be able to help me a little bit with that as well.
I've certainly am trying. I certainly will do my best.
He's even practicing blow darting in his kids, from what I hear, you know.
I've got a lot to learn on that front. When I was working with Charlie on that trip, I went out, because the trip I did before, I got a bit of a hang of I thought I did of blow darting. So let's backtrack. Why you have to blow dart in Indonesia is the dogs are very wild. You can't get near them to inject anything. Anyway, so I went out on the bike with one of the volunteers to go. I had this dog that was semi-tame that they were going to go dart, and I got all ready, and I'm feeling a little bit proud of myself. I'm a bit of the man, and got my position and blow darted this dog beautifully. Good shot. Except I didn't take the cap off the syringe. And like, boom, brilliant, genius. And the dog ran away, not to be seen again for the rest of the day. So where are we?
Charlie, you were talking about sort of being competitive and really making the most out of life and most out of your career and things like that. She would share before that you exercise a lot now. Is exercise a big thing for you, and do you find that it's a critical thing for a veteran, like for a professional, to have and integrate in part of their life?
Absolutely, Gerardo. I suppose some people might think that I'm a little bit obsessive. I don't really have a particular regimen. I don't get up and go to the gym or anything like that. I'm not comfortable if I don't do a little bit of a bike ride, have a little swim or a run. Only one of those, but I must admit, I live near the beach, so every morning that I can, which is probably 362 mornings, I will ride my bike down. This in a Victorian winter. I ride my bike down and I'll have a swim. And I just figure, you're at the beach, just jump in, and I do it. Oh. And so that shocks a lot of people. And I guess I'll let you in on my mindset. My mindset is, I like swimming. I get refreshed. Some people have a shower in the morning and clean their teeth. I like to splash around, roll and do the splits and run backwards, all in the water. And I have this little routine. So I ride down to the beach. And is it raining? It was pouring rain this morning. Is it raining? It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. I got wet. I figured, well, I'm not going to drive. So I had to swim. It was quite refreshing. In winter, I think the only thing that's stopping me going in there, it's not going to kill me. It's probably going to liven me up a fair bit. The only thing that's stopping me is me thinking it's cold. So I'll just take that out of the equation. I just go to the beach and go in, no thinking. So, and then I do a lot of running, and I feel I've never really meditated, but when I run, I usually don't take a phone. That's a bit of a double-edged thing. I don't have a phone because I do love music a lot, but I don't have a phone because I don't really want to ring while I'm running, and so I don't have any music. And I just think a lot, and I feel like my running is meditative. I don't worry too much about intervals. I just run, and I try and get that little bit of space to myself at most days. And yeah, I like to feel fit. Sometimes I get a sore back, and sometimes I get an injury, and I keep telling myself, Carly, it doesn't matter, but it does to me. It's how I feel. I feel like I'm in control. I feel like I'm I'm more comfortable with myself. I really enjoy the feeling of being fit and hopefully fast as well.
I totally agree with what you're saying, and for me, fitness is and exercise plays a massive role in my ability to handle stress, and I really do put it in the time of the day where I feel like the lull. And so I exercise mostly in the afternoons because I get to the point where there's a lull, and um, like it's a combination of feeling like as if you are just prepared, like physically, because I find a lot of our performance and our productivity is totally connected to how we feel. And how do we, for me, how can I want to be a high performer and highly productive veterinarian if I don't feel like as if I could be that? So I try to marry how I feel in my health and my body with what I want in my head as well. So I don't know if that's the same for you.
It is absolutely. In fact, I don't feel as productive. So I do the same as you today. One of the other vets I work with, Charlie, didn't want to go for a run. I didn't really want to go for a run. A bit of a sore leg, but I did at lunchtime. And I just feel it changes your afternoon. Some people think, oh, Charlie's gone off for a run at lunchtime. It's a bit different. But you go back and I feel like you're a different person. You're that much more, I think, productive and perhaps a little bit more comfortable in your own skin. Whereas if you haven't done anything all day, if I haven't done anything all day, I just start to feel drained and a bit down, not positive. And during that run, I heard a story of another friend of mine, a mutual friend, and they said, I said, how's he going? Oh, is he still doing his CrossFit and running? He was a bit obsessive, but he was very fit. And the answer was no, he's finding work really long and stressful, and he's got his young child. And I said, isn't he doing anything? And he said no. And I became worried about that person's mental health.
So have you always been exercise focused, Charlie?
Yeah. I think since I was a kid, since I was a teenager, I just, again, I used to go out for runs around the park. I wasn't very fast and good as a high school student. I just used to run a lot. I had a neighbour around the corner that used to run. I think I was a bit of an escape artist. I just used to like doing things off by myself. I wasn't that social. I was a bit of I was a bit shy, a bit of an introvert, and I found running to be just, I felt comfortable running. And then as I was lucky enough that when I went to uni, I started getting a bit faster. So I started becoming a bit competitive. My times became competitive. So I would run and I would do quite well in fun runs and things like that. So then it became a bit more of my life. And to the extent where I'd be working working as a vet, working really hard. And then I would just, before mobile phones, I would just go for a run at lunchtime and jump in a lake or something. After mobile phones, I just switch, ignore the phone, put it in the car, and I would just run off and do this 30 minutes of an absolute flat-out run in a bush somewhere and come back. And I got extremely fit by doing that. And I found that my mental, like you say, Gerardo, I was that much more resilient to stress, and I was able to just, bring it on. After I've been for a run, bring it on. I felt happy, very comfortable in my own skin, and I still do when I still feel like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not actually naturally energetic. I was quite a lazy kid. I'm still quite lazy, and the only reason I run and do exercise is because I know how much better I'm going to feel. I never feel like it. I never feel like, I'm dying to go for a run. But I know if I don't, I'm going to pay the price later in the day or the next day.
Yeah. To a certain extent, but that's me too. I don't really ever feel like going for running. I really want to go for a run today. I just say, I'm going for a run, a bit like my swimming in winter. I'm going for a swim because I know I don't think about it. I know I'll feel better when I do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But mind you, I've done a few runs in wild countries. So Lombok, when I go for a run down that Kuta Lombok beach, I generally get chased by street dogs. That's not much fun. And so I have to walk or change my route. So, and then once I went for a run, I did a bit of vet work in Mongolia once, and I went for this beautiful rolling hills. So off I went for this run, and I was running along, and they have these fairly severe sheep, goat, guard dogs. They're like they look like these Anatolian bloody, I don't know what they are, but they're some serious dogs. And I went for a run, and 3 dogs, I was out in the middle of nowhere, and 3 dogs started running right at me. And I thought, holy shit, what am I going to do here?
Whoa.
So anyway, I think I was running towards their patch. So I just quickly ran backwards because I wanted to keep my eye on them. And anyway, I had to then curtail my runs in Mongolia. At Beirut, I got told I'm not allowed to go for a run in certain areas, but I still tried to.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Best way to explore a new town or anywhere you're traveling is on a run. Yeah, go out for a run. But I've had the same. Bali, oh my word, running in Bali and street dogs. It's weird. They don't mind you driving along on your scooter. They don't mind you walking past. They won't even look at you. But I think those dogs, they don't used to see people run because they see you run and they go, what have you stolen? I should catch you. I should do something about it. Because I've had a few standoffs there with dogs where they were really not happy about me. So I've got another vet question, career question, that I should have popped in way at the beginning. We started this conversation ages ago and I never actually quite heard your answer. So you had a long career in mixed practice or large animal practice, and then got quite into horses. You were like, I would classify you as a horse vet.
Yes.
And then in a university. So
Yes.
so the natural progression in that journey is very often to look at specialization. Did you ever consider specializing? And if so, why did you choose not to go that route?
That's a really good question, and I don't know. I still, to this day, don't know whether I made the right decision, but I'm very happy to share the story. So, yeah, I was working in practice, and I graduated in 1984, and this would have been late 90s. So I've been in practice nearly 15 years, and I really liked practice, but I felt I started going to a few conferences, and I put these. They didn't have PowerPoints in those days. You take a few photos and put them on a slide projector and put them up. And so I started giving a few presentations of my cases, and I found I really liked the science. I loved being a clinician, but I was starting to get a little bit jaded. I felt like I was jaded. I felt like I was losing a bit of enthusiasm for clinical work, particularly after hours work. And I was certainly excited by starting to pursue some academic areas. So the opportunity came for me to work at a university as a locum, and I went there, and I found I really enjoyed the fact that you could go and see a horse and had colic, and you could bring it in, and you could do an operation. Well, you could watch an operation, and in the end, I was helping do the operation, and it was pretty much. I felt like I was reborn, more than reborn. I was really stimulated and absolutely loved it. And so I thought I did my membership quite a few years before, mid-90s. I did my membership, and I became an examiner in that. And so I felt like, yeah, I should start to specialise. And I did go down that route. I looked into it, and there was a potential mentor that I had, and I kind of just at the last, all of my my peers that I sat my memberships with had gone on to American universities, and they'd gone off and become fellows in the Australian College of Diplomats. And I thought about it. If the mentors that I had said, "Come on, Jay, you should do this. I'll be your mentor," probably I would have, but I was going to have to twist a few people's arm, which was fine because they were all pretty good friends. And I thought, something inside me said, do you want to really be a specialist down this narrow path where you're looking after equine clients in a specialist university, or would you rather be more of a community vet and help with, I was starting to do a little bit of work with dogs in remote communities, and I felt that was just, and I would still do a lot of work around the town where I live in just as helping people with animals. And I felt like there was value in knowing a lot about a lot of different animals, in not just dogs and cats, but chickens, because the chickens are important in smaller communities, particularly overseas, and cows so valuable and sheep. And I thought about it. I thought, I think I want to keep my skills and probably some work up north and a little bit of communication with East Timor. I started to get that working more of a community vet, helping out, and that pretty much made me think maybe I don't want to be a specialist. If I want to keep I probably could have done both. I don't know. Maybe I could have done both, but I made this decision not to go down a small, narrow path and become really good at one thing, to try and stay a generalist, as in helping all species. I think I made the decision that sits better with me, but I still feel like a little bit like I maybe missed an opportunity, or I might have taken an easy exit.
Yeah, I've bounced around the idea of doing a specialty for like the last 5 years. And I always came back to where could I have my biggest impact? And it was either hospital director role, and assisting and developing AES in the hospitals that we had and the teams, or investing 3 years or so in fellowship. And yeah, I was actually concerned that I wouldn't pass. Like, that was one of my biggest fears, was that actually I would do all that and actually not pass. But then it came back down to, if I eliminated that, where could I have my biggest impact? And it came to supporting teams, building teams, and continuing to train them to then be able to be more highly professional and better trained veterinarians. So, and I still dance with the idea of doing it as well. But I think what you said resonates with me in a way, Charlie, is that like, where could you have your impact, and how could you, I suppose, reach a large number of people?
I've got friends who did the fellowship, and they, in their own way, they're training and they're helping. I guess a difference. They're training young people coming up, the veterinarians. So you're certainly able to help.
I suppose we haven't considered the impact that specialists have with regards to research and how it contributes to the development and continuing growth of our profession. But when I thought about it, it was like, what would I do when I come back from being a specialist, and would I sit in an ICU as an emergency and critical care specialist? Probably not. Like, I will still be a hospital director and then training vets and so forth. So it came down to actually, I'd focus on trying to be a better leader and focus on trying to be a better trainer. So
I liked what we had a guest, one of the early episodes, Professor Jill Madison from Australia, but who's in the UK. She is a specialist, a small animal medicine, very well regarded. And we asked her the question of why specialize. And I liked what she said. It sort of let me off the hook, but I felt for not ever going down that route. She just said, you really have to want to do it. There should be no doubt of, should I specialize or shouldn't I? It should be this is what I need to do, because I want to know as much as I can about this field. I'm an academic. I want to do research. She says, because it's that hard and that there's that much of a commitment, that unless you really want to do it, you probably shouldn't do it. Which I like that explanation.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I still get asked that question. Veterinarians, I was thinking of doing my fellowship, and I said, well, you need to be driven to do it.
Right. How are we for time? We should probably start wrapping up. Charlie, have you got anything that you feel strongly about that you want to share with us?
I think we've covered all that. No, good positive mental attitude. Keeping fit, listen to music.
Wait, I'm going to wrap it up. Don't wrap it up yet. We have a question to wrap it all up. There's a question coming, don't worry. Gerardo, anything from you, mate?
Oh, no, I'm good. Charlie, like, everything you've been sharing today is amazing. Thank you so much.
Charlie, a couple of questions we generally wrap up with. Are you a podcast listener?
I was I'm a bit ashamed about this one. I don't think I've ever listened to a podcast.
Okay, cool. Okay, books then. Have you got any books that have been very impactful in your life that we need to read?
Yeah. Look, I think I just absolutely can never go past To Kill a Mockingbird. I thought that story is just such a wonderful story about a very capable, humble, gentle man. So To Kill a Mockingbird, look, I've read some of those self-help books. I've read, was it the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? And I think I get some positive messages out of those books, but I think, what other books do I really like? I like a book called The Shipping News. I probably should have prepared myself for this answer a bit better. But Shipping News I like. I'm going to have to apologise and say I can't think of the
No, not at all, not at all. Have you read the follow-up to Kill a Mockingbird?
I tried to. I started it, but I got a little bit. I just didn't get me in. No. I tried.
It's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Same author, and then suddenly Atticus Finch becomes a bit of a racist. He's not. So I think the advice is, if you're a fan of To Kill a Mockingbird, is don't read the next one. Stick to the first one. And then our last question, Charlie, which is quite applicable to you with all the students you work with.
Yeah.
So you're in an auditorium, and you have the entire world's veterinary new graduates in front of you, and you have a couple of minutes to give them one message. What's your message to them?
I think, embrace what you do. Look forward to going into the consult room. Look forward to hearing people's stories, listening, engaging with them. It's not all about that you're there to see their animal, but it's not going to work unless you engage with them, unless you look them in the eye, listen to their story, and take it all in. And be as smart and clever and technical as you like, but remember that there's an interface there that you're not going to get past go unless you really enjoy, savour their story.
Mm. Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
That's my drum that I beat. All right. Thank you so much, Charlie, for joining us. I knew it was going to be fun. I think people are going to love listening to this. You have a lot of fans out there who I think will jump straight onto this podcast.
Thank you, Charlie.
I hope that you better edit this out. I hope I increase the ratings of your podcast.